So thank you very much for the survey today. Here's a recording of what was discussed, and I spent some of the time just talking directly to the camera, so you won't have heard it all, but I develop my theories of what's causing the root cause of the dampness as I go along, so there can be some change towards the end, but have a listen. That's come out, and that's shedding onto the ground just next to the wall, so it's not ideal. Obviously this is temporary, but it's not great. About what I'm seeing as I go along.
Can I just grab him? I'll carry it, save some bit of screaming.
Sure, yeah.
You'll see in the upstairs room, the wall is much worse actually.
So as a general rule,
Yep.
when you've got a brown stain like that, it's because water's passing through building material.
Yep.
Which is either from penetrating damp, which is what I see you thought it was, and I think that's the most likely cause, or it could be from a leak. So I'll obviously look at both.
Yeah.
But where you've got mould, it's because of excess vapour.
Yeah.
And that can be localised, so it can be from, obviously the water that's passing through the building material is going to cause high surface relative humidity, which is what causes the mould, or it can be from internal vapour, and this was used as a bedroom.
Yes.
The other thing is with mould is once it's grown, unless somebody bleaches it or otherwise gets rid of it, it will stay there forever. So it's probably historic mould. That goes back to when the room was lived in, and when obviously somebody's living in a room, they're going to create a lot more vapour. I mean, respiration being the primary cause. If they were here 24/7, then there's going to be, and probably the bed was around. This is the bed head.
The bed was here. They had, because they left it with very heavy red velvet curtains as well. So that whole, I think, which.
Well, so the other thing is with curtains, what it does is it traps in the humidity and stops the heat from getting through. So increases the risk.
And also, I'm not sure if James told you and or sent you photos, but when we moved in, there was a huge lean-to built outside. And you'll see, I'll pop you outside, you can see like where they've drilled into the brick, and it's all it was a bit haphazard, shall we say, but it was quite a fixed structure, because they owned the laundrette, it's very tenuous, but they owned the laundrette around the corner, and according to our neighbour, they used to bring some of the stuff back to dry, which is why they built the big lean-to. So there would have been a lot of, wet, exactly, and also I think the construction meant that none of the bricks could breathe.
And also, to an extent, but also it would be cold because it wouldn't be. I doubt it would be heated.
Yes,
so
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So when we moved in, and it obviously was raining a lot, this gutter here was completely full and overflowing. So it was like, when it rained, it was a waterfall straight down against the wall. And you can see, because we had like mushrooms growing out the wall, and you can see some have kind of regrown the kind of green vegetation.
That's a good sign of,
And then, so we had that change. They said, your flashing needs doing, but we didn't do it. And then we've had
up at the top.
Yes, up at the top here, along the guttering. But then we've had someone, and you'll notice when I take you outside, they've rendered part of the wall. So when we had a repointing guy here to look at repointing, he was basically like, there's no point me doing it. I think, you need to fix the problem first. And he pointed out the rendering at the top and said it might be something to do with that. Because I don't think it's an internal leak, because obviously next door is the bathroom, but obviously there's no kind of sign of leakage where some of the pipes
I can guess what it is, but I'm going to have a look before I start saying things. But I'll take this downstairs. We're keeping these in the same environment for about half an hour or so. You can find there's a little bit of inaccuracy, and although the difference of a few percent relative humidity doesn't really make much difference, but what will be, I'll be showing you later, but essentially the three things you're looking at temperature, but it's also not just the temperature of the data logger, but also the temperature of the wall, because we want to get the surface relative humidity. So we get the relative humidity, and a calculated value comes from that. It's called the dew point. and the dew point's really important. And in an old property like this, it's really hard to keep internal dew points low as they should be because of modern living and the way these properties are designed. And I'll give you lots of tips and tricks on doing that. But it will be a combination of getting good ventilation, so bathroom ventilation, kitchen ventilation, and actually using it. So are you going to do your kitchen? Or
we are, but not immediately. For a number of years.
So you don't have to worry too much about it, but you can measure it and do and minimise when it's particularly when it's cold outside, because you want to keep the dew point below the outside temperature at all times.
Oh, right.
But really important, and so something that people don't sort of get, is it's better to have a quiet fan, even if it's not necessarily the strongest one, because it means that you'll use it, rather than have a strong fan that no one ever uses, just because you can't chat over it. So
interesting.
That's really important.
Because there is, I'll show you this, in that bay window in the kitchen, there is, it's some form of damp because the paint's crumbling off.
Okay.
So I don't know whether they've treated it and that's the paint, or whether there is, and again we've had, as just trees, people have come round, have given us their view on how they've rendered from the ground up on the brickwork, and hasn't left any space for air or breathing. But I'll show you a word for it, because these aren't experts, they're just...
I mean, the great thing about this property is you say that the predecessors did quite a lot of work to it, but actually compared to a lot of places, and I've only just seen, a few rooms, but there hasn't been too much damage or manipulation, or it's quite similar to, it's got suspended timber floors, for example.
Yes,
and actually, if we've got time, and I imagine we will do, what I'll do is I'll drop a hygrometer probe into the subfloor void and just see how things are.
Because we've just had insulation put in. We're having insulation put in between the timber.
Okay. That's already taken place?
In this back room it has, not in the front room or the hallway.
What are you using? Do you know? Is it?
It's in the kitchen.
The stuff I saw outside, the PI, also the thick.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Gosh,
I've just done the same thing myself. Actually.
You'll be like, that's an awful thing to do.
You know what? There are mixed views on it, and I do it because I know that I can control the subfloor humidity by increasing, decreasing the ventilation, subfloor ventilation. Well, you have to keep an eye on it. What you don't want to happen is what's called sweating, and because PIR doesn't allow air, so it doesn't allow airflow, but breathability is what people call it. And you can get, if you aren't controlling the vapour. So one of the reasons for having subfloor ventilation is if you have a leak or any source of water in the subfloor, you can end up getting rot in timber, and actually something like insulation is going to increase the risk, because it can reduce the airflow, particularly if they drop down and you haven't noticed it, and it reduces the amount of heat going into so by putting insulation, you're keeping the heat into the main part of the house, but you're also stopping the heat from the main part of the house going into the subfloor. So it increases the risk of high condensation, essentially, in the subfloor, which you can mitigate by measuring the subfloor humidity, and that's what I do actively. Just if I've had a leak, and if I hadn't known about it because I had a hygrometer, I would have had continuous water going into the subfloor, and B, I'd have a risk of rot. And the other thing about, if you look at a number of my videos, you'll see that a common reason for thinking that you have rising damp is because of a leak in the subfloor that then condenses above the damp-proof course and then creates rising damp-like symptoms.
Right, okay.
It's a very inexpensive, and there's an accuracy of only about 50%. So it's worth actually putting it with something where you know it's accurate. So sitting them next to one of your hygrometers that I've got but actually in this instance, it's not. It's unlikely that I'm going to pick up anything particularly this time of year. It's winter when you're more likely. But I just put it into a gap. So in your case, it's an easy to find a nice gap. But otherwise, you sometimes have to put it into behind radiators when there aren't any obvious gaps, because the gaps will be filled probably. And you're looking for a few things. So you're looking for the percent relative humidity, but also because the temperature will be much lower, but still warmer than the outside. You're looking for the dew point as well. And there's a quick way of working it out in your head, but there's a calculator on this.
Oh, okay.
So I'll show you later. Really, there are two principal types of rot, well, a lot more than that, but dry rot and wet rot. Dry rot is a very dangerous, fast-growing and structurally damaging rot that doesn't need a huge amount of water. It needs water to start it, but once it gets started, it produces water as a byproduct of respiration, and therefore it generates its own water. And yeah, you have to be worried about that. Any other type of rot, I'd say virtually every property of this age will have some degree of rot, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. But yeah.
Great.
That's now filming. So this is thermal imaging camera, and the great thing about this is, it can tell you where you've got heat loss. Now, in summertime, you can't really tell the heat loss. You really need to have about a 10 to 20 degrees centigrade difference between the inside temperature and the outside temperature.
Right, okay.
But I'm pretty familiar with these properties. I can tell you where you're going to get the greatest heat loss and the greatest bang for your buck if you're thinking about insulation and that sort of thing. But anyway, you are getting there's some heat loss in the corner there, and that will be from water that's evaporating out, because evaporation generates or absorbs heat, and it helps me work out the surface. So you can work out the surface relative humidity by taking the temperature and the data from the data logger, and you can work out, and I do that automatically.
Okay, great.
You'll find that you'll naturally get heat loss around bays because there's increased surface area on the outside, and you get heat loss because of that. And if you've got a radiator into the bay, which has got a lot to be said for it, but you also get a lot of loss from the radiator, so it's worth insulating behind that.
Okay.
If nothing else, get one of those radiator insulation things, but you might even think about putting some insulation in the wall.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's a good way. You can say, so the general rule with insulation is you want to hit the areas where you get the greatest heat loss, and hit the areas where you've got your source of heat. Oh right. I'm assuming you don't have a cellar here.
No cellar.
Oh yeah, so you've got quite a lot of heat loss down there.
Yeah.
In the corner.
See, this is where all the painting. You see the along.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I saw that. Yes. Okay. I better focus in on that. And your kitchen extractor fan. Oh, looks like it's ducted out. So it's not very elegant, but it does work. Okay, I'll go upstairs now.
It's full of stuff, but
I'll start in this room. So, should I go in?
yeah, please do.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I won't go too far, but I'll put this for you, and then you can have a look at it. And it's a work in progress. Some interesting smells in here. Is this just say about these passive vents? They're a double-edged sword. Really, you need to vent from the source of the vapour, which is primarily the bathroom, kitchen, drying clothes. And even though respiration creates a lot of vapour, you're better off using something like a dehumidifier than using passive vent, because unless there's any airflow outside, you won't get any ventilation. You often get big plume of mould around the passive vent.
Can we close that up then?
Yeah, I would do. Yeah, I would use insulation to an expandable foam is quite a good way of doing it with a render on the outside.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they don't, unless there's airflow, you'll just get heat loss without the benefit of ventilation.
Freezing in the winter.
Exactly.
Is from that.
Well, you've got three things going on. You've got it's the end, top floor.
Yes, two
external walls. And you've got the eaves. Do you see those eaves there? Do you see how... Can I walk on this? Yeah. Do you see how you're getting very slight shade difference there? Yeah. That's because you get different heat zones of heat loss. So the timber will act as some form of insulation, and between the timber, it'll get damp. And it's actually what it's doing is it's collecting probably the previous people smoked, and it's collecting the smoke. It's like soot is trapping it there. But you can also, you go into a lot of properties and you find mould growing between those, and you get these streaks of mould because of that. But also next to the bathroom. But it doesn't look too bad here compared to some of the places I go to.
Okay, that's good to know.
But you've got all the risks of it being very cold and near a source of vapour. There are different forms of insulation you can use, but one of them is a thin insulation called space therm, and it could be quite good in the eaves there, or you can use something called rock wool, which is it's a lining paper. So it's a lining paper with a fleece on the
you put on just
and then you can paint on top of it, and that's quite a good way of doing it. But the eaves is a particular area because you can't really insulate it. You can insulate above here, even though it probably isn't very well insulated, but in theory you could climb up and insulate it, but in the eaves you can't, and you get a lot of heat loss because you're just close to the tiles.
This is going to be his room as well.
Young children is that they acclimatise. It's better for them to be cooler than too hot. And as well, the Scandinavians, what they do is they put their children out for an hour every day. So don't worry about allowing a child. It's better for them to have fresh air and be cooler than no fresh air and to be hot. Go to people's properties when they've lived there for years and years and years, no problem at all. First child comes along and they get mould and condensation everywhere. And that's because A, they're spending more time at home. B, there's a lot of washing going on. There's a lot of bottle, whatever it's called, steaming, sterilising. And cooking at different times of day that you wouldn't otherwise do. But also a lot of people are so concerned about their young child that they close up all the windows, but actually it's counterproductive. Better to be cooler and colder because children don't cope.
Because I think we probably caused some of that black on the damp, because when this wall's only just been open 2 weeks, and before that we used it as our Chinese laundrette to basically no drying and washing. It was kind of like the junk room where the washing would go, and obviously it was winter, so the window wasn't open. So I do wonder whether actually some of that black speckly.
Was there mould there before?
Yeah, all of that brown and everything, but I think we added to the black.
But the black. Okay, so you saw with the thermal imaging camera that's cooler here, and that's because you've got water evaporating through there, and that causes the temperature of the wall to go down. Mould only grows with relative humidity, goes above 85% for long periods of time. Relative humidity is a measure of air's capacity to hold moisture. It's a combination of excess vapour, so where the dew point is too high, but also temperature where the wall is low. So it's the combination of factors. And did you have a curtain? Did you have the original heavy curtain?
We took them off towards the end, so that would have done it as well.
But what I would do is I would dry it out as much as you can. I would probably use a vacuum cleaner with a HEPA filter. Just stops any mould going into the air. And then use anti-mould spray. HG is the one that I prefer, but they all use bleach as their active ingredient.
Yeah.
I recommend you guys get one of these, and it is showing it's very damp here, which is what the thermal imaging camera told me anyway. But it's all the way. So I recommend you get one of these damp meters. They use radio waves, so they don't leave marks in the wall.
Yeah, that's somewhere they just poke.
Yeah. Well, that's a surface one, and this does have it. I don't tend to use it, but it only tells you if the surface is damp, which it is in this case, but it doesn't tell you if it's damp inside, and whereas the radio ones are much better. Yeah. And this is really inexpensive. It costs like £25 compared to my professional one, which costs about £500. Yeah. And this is, in my opinion, better. Wow. But it's not calibrated for each property. But it doesn't matter when you're in the same property.
Yeah. Okay.
You use it to work out if it's drying out.
Yeah.
And it will take 6 to 9 months to dry out, so it's not.
So should we not decorate on it?
A lot of people ask me that question. And I would say, if it were me, I would put 1 or 2 coats on it and just be aware that I may have to redecorate it later. Yeah. But I wouldn't be putting stain block on at this stage, because you want it to evaporate as much as possible, and the stain block stop it from doing that. And I mean, it's only one section of wall. Yeah.
And what about, because of this, sorry, this might be slightly off piece, but obviously this is all going to come off because it's like that. Yeah. So, and like that. So we're going to have to obviously fill that in. Should we not be doing that till it's fully dried out? Or like, because if the plasterer comes and says, I can plaster all this. Well,
I think you work with the plasterer. Yeah. I don't think it. I mean, that's because the windows have been put in. It's not the original. Yeah. You wouldn't have had plasterboard like that.
Yeah, no, it would have been bricks, wouldn't it? Yeah.
When you see Buddleia, it's a sign that water any plant, but Buddleia is particularly good at growing anywhere. Right. It's actually an invasive species, but I would probably take it out, but also just to say that you've got a soil pipe there, which is a strange place to have it, given that the bathroom isn't there, because you've got another one over there, which may have been that it was a bathroom at one stage. I don't know.
Some of them in other properties, that was the bathroom, funnily enough.
There's a soil pipe there on your neighbour's side, but I don't think you need it. And what it will do is it will create heat loss because it's big slab of iron on the outside. Oh, right. They risk rust. Yeah. Because you can't paint in behind them, so you can get rust.
It's not actually attached to anything, is it? I just thinking, it's just there. It's not got.
Is anything going into it? I don't know. I can't
not
see.
In that back bedroom, but and then this was the kitchen extension they did. But there's the boiler, but that white thing obviously is where the boiler is.
That doesn't look very healthy, but you've seen that presumably. The pipes.
Yes, they're not connected. Yeah.
The surveyors will recommend having bell casts at the base of the wall with a gap at the base of the wall. I'm completely against it, and the reason why is because you have then a band of heat loss at the base of the wall where water can get in. I'm not really sure why they recommended it. By the way, it looks like we've had damp proofing treatment. You see these? Is that what they told you?
No, I was speculating because I had damp in a previous property I owned, and even when I treated it, the wallpaper paint crumbled.
It tends to make it worse for a lot of different reasons, but You can see it all the way along here. But anyway, the plinth of the base of the wall, I'm a big fan of. It's like it's like a pair of Wellington boots.
Oh, okay.
It's keeping the water from the base. Because what happens is, if you look at rainwater as it bounces, it will bounce quite high up on the wall.
Yeah.
This will stop a majority of it going in. You want to keep it nicely sealed at the base, and you want it to run away. It looks pretty good, but I just make sure you don't have any cracks. Cracks around here, not ideal, but I doubt they're they're not going to be causing any of the dampness you have here. Oh yeah, so this is the.
That's what you were saying isn't good to have.
I mean, it's not ideal, but I don't think it's going to cause any problems. What will have happened is water will have run down here and it will go in behind and it won't evaporate out, so it'll exacerbate the problems, but the root cause will be the roof, the guttering. So I'm going to have a look at that, but it won't be the root cause of your damp. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. I just checked that the water is running away, but it looks to me as though it probably does run away into this drain here.
Okay.
See what happens during a rainstorm. Obviously, you want to sort that one out.
Yeah.
I mean, a simple screw in there will stop it.
Yeah, that's good.
Looks like it's in the past it's overflowed, and I would say, you see where you're getting greenery there. It's fairly dried out, so it suggests it's not ongoing.
It might be because we replaced that whole top gutter.
Ah, okay.
Because that was new on top of this structure. So when they were coming to clear the gutter, they said, do you want us just to switch it? Because that one's old and this one's new. So they just put the newer gutter up. So I wonder if that's what's helped that bit, because it's obviously not blocked.
Well, you can see it's dried out, so that's a sign that it's stopped.
That's good.
But keep an eye on it. Just have a look to see what happens during a rainstorm. Get yourself wet. Take a phone with you to film it and just see what's happening. This looks like it's overflowed at some stage, but and there's a bit of green there, suggesting there's some residual damp. But I'm guessing it's okay. Do you
That's
have
from the boiler, I think.
Oh, it's the overflows.
Yeah.
Or the condenser. We don't think the fan works. The light comes on, so it's obviously electrics, but nothing's happening. But it looks like it's vented out, not particularly elegantly, but it's not going anywhere though. Oh, so how strange. I see. This is just the old end of the house. So it's as good as useless anyway, because it's just recycling, so the vapour just goes up through that gap there. So it wouldn't do any good anyway. But when you do have a fan, get yourself a quiet fan that is ducted all the way out, and as straight a ducting, rigid ducting is best, with as minimal bends in it.
Interesting.
And ideally you just go straight out from the end or wherever it is.
And do you, sort of slight side, have you seen the new fans that are damp, that take the damp? Have you got any view on them?
I nearly got one myself. The reason I didn't is because you can't put the oven in underneath, because they have
she's got the oven in the island.
They have the big gap.
Yeah, that must be
so that's why I didn't. But the only thing is that a lot of people will do it but not duct it all the way out, and it just needs to be ducted out. But the great thing about that is you're more likely to use it.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's some quite good fans out at the moment where they communicate between the hob and the fan to automatically switch it on.
Oh, that's clever.
Because people just don't put on fans. But anyway, So I just videoed with a GoPro to see where the damp is upstairs, and then I'm going to have a look at all of this down here.
Okay, perfect.
Do you you happy for me just to test the water out. I don't think it looks incredibly like a leak, and when I saw the photos this morning, I thought that's what the problem is. But you only really get that sort of shape where you've got a solid floor.
Yeah. Well, that we can assure you there's not. We had a plasterer here for 2 weeks, a plumber here for 2 weeks, so there were no leaks.
There were no leaks.
No, the only thing they didn't go into was that toilet. So unless there is a toilet.
Yeah, but it wouldn't show it like this. It'd be in this corner here.
Oh, I see.
Well, I'll have a quick.
She was saying, she had massive bills from Thames Water, and they were like, you must have a leak.
Can I put this on? We were just talking about. So this looks like a leak around here, but you've had a plumber here, and you say there isn't a leak.
We've had a plumber who's had not every floorboard up, but he had most of the floorboards up. No reference to a leak or any damp.
And this is actually.
That's the board they replaced because there was a big fireplace hearth here. So that had to be removed.
Have you removed the fireplace?
No.
Chimney breast?
No, but it obviously has been at some point because it also ran up to the hall upstairs.
I can't see behind here, but you often get what are called hygroscopic salts around these chimneys. If you do get damp spots, there'll be hygroscopic salts, and you just need to use an oil-based primer like Zinza cover stain.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But anyway, talking about this, so you were saying that there was a time when they had massive water bills.
Supposedly, so yeah, once we moved in, one of the sisters got in touch to say she was challenging Thames Water on some massive bills they had, and that it might be a leak, and so could we basically see if there was a leak?
So this was during the survey, or after?
This was after sale, so she knocked on the door basically and said, I've had a massive bill from Thames Water. They're saying it's a leak. So I spent a lot of time speaking to Thames Water, and they were like, no, we can see obviously all online, you don't have a leak. So she said they might have had a leaky appliance, like a washing machine or a dishwasher, and that might have caused it. But my concern was that perhaps it was the toilet, because in our actual house survey, the surveyor did say there's obviously been water damage on the ceiling, but we had the bathroom and the toilet checked upstairs, and there's no leak behind there.
Oh, so all of these could be historic.
All are historic, yeah.
But so I'll just see whether they're damp now.
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
That's dry, so that's just historic. Use a stain block and you'll be fine.
And Thames Water for us, when we moved in, we have completely normal average bills for this size house and the number of occupants. So what's the figure of damp? Are you looking for below essentially?
Well, I use it in two different ways, but generally I'll look for where it says 100%. It'll tend to be at the base of the wall because water moves through gravity downwards, and it's also cold at the base of the wall. Like a pair of drying trousers. This has been damp proofed here. So you can normally find a damp proofer's ridge around here where it's been damp proofed up to. But you can see on the outside.
Yeah.
There's a slight feeling there of changing plaster. Well, I'll just check to see. So this can be historic.
Yes.
It could be. You bought in November, so it should be becoming drier. But if you've got a damp proofing treatment, it'll slow down the drying process.
Okay.
So I'm just testing for a leak. I'll turn it off here, and I've got water that's overflowing. So it goes 90 degrees. Oh, there we go. So that's off. Make sure no one falls out. And it only takes a few minutes doing it like this. So I'm going to open this up so that it will reach equilibrium, and we'll just see if there's any suckback on it. If there is, It could be a leak, or it could be a drip upstairs or elsewhere. So I'm going to calibrate these using a data logger that's been pre-calibrated. So this is a hygrometer probe, but it shows the dew point on it, which is good, and you want to make sure that's always outside, below the outside temperature. So if I to calibrate, I'm going to add the devices. I can only see 2 devices. Interesting. Oh, so obviously it's just picked another one up. Right, so these will be the last 3 here. We won't worry about the name for the moment. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that they are in line. So it should be showing 63.2. Don't worry too much about absolute. I'd say the temperatures are all look like they're correct. They're all in line. So we just need to increase this. So press name, calibration. I'm going to add 3.19, so 63. To find it, you press that, locate, find it, and then this. So that's BE. So that's bathroom and bedroom. Okay, so that's bedroom. It won't show up on yours, so you'll have to redo all of this again. So calibration, I'm going to add 1.62325. There you go. That's 63. Oh, it's changed now. You'll see that it varies all the time. As I say, you don't need to be 100%. I'm slightly guessing now. The trouble is you can't actually see it easily, so. And find it. Living room. And last one. There we go. So the dew points are pretty much in line. So that's the important thing. So to send it to me, you download the data. This will take about a minute per week of data. So I'm not going to record the whole thing. So with these meters, they start on drywall, which is plasterboard, and you want to move it onto masonry, which just press that. I use these to map the extent of the damp. The damp carries on. So damp will be drawn down through gravity. So it'll be pulled down in the wall through gravity, but the worst of it is higher up. and you use visual as well as damp meter. So once you've downloaded it, you'll come to a screen like this. When you first do it, you'll have some sort of bit of information which you can read or just click the X. Then press the calculator sound to export it and the export sign. And then either do export CSV or open CSV. Export CSV goes straight into an email. If you do open CSV, you have the options of doing different things. So I'll go into export CSV and then send it to myself, Simon at Damp Surveys. Start again. And just send it. And it will say succeeded, and then back, and then do the same for each one of them independently. Once you've done it, you'll see it shows the readout time and date. So this, where it's got no readout or it's a prior date, you know you haven't done the updating. So the data is held on the data logger. When you import it, it will import it with the calibrated units, and then when you export, all that will be updated automatically. And I'll show you how to put it online, but it goes onto a site called damp.ai/detect, where you can then analyze the data using AI. It's still in its beta phase, so bear with it, but I'll talk you through the first lot. So this has been like this for about half an hour and no water has been sucked back. If there was a leak, you would have sucked back on it, and it's fine. So I'm going to turn it off and turn it back on at the mains. So if there was a leak in the washing machine, it would go through the solid floor onto this floor. I'm just looking to see. So the numbers are high, showing higher here, but not off the scale, but it's higher here than it was next door. So I think you just got a bit of residual there from a leak.
Okay, that's good to know. Well,
right, this window won't open up very well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use my old phone and just slip it through underneath. See what goes through. I mean, so I understand the gutter's renewed, so that could have been the problem, but we'll have a look on the computer, see if there are any other obvious issues. So just finding out whether this is damp. It's on masonry, so it's showing 100%. And the brown colour gives you an idea of where the centre of the dampness is. This is background ventilation. Typically it'll be about 5, 3.7, something like that. And then when you turn the light on, it will go up, and this should be 15. Okay. 10, 12. I mean, I'm not collecting it as efficiently as I could do, but also because of the grate on the outside, it's going to slow that down. But as it's continuous flow, it's not a problem. Just make sure to keep the door closed.